Welcome to the explainer. In medicine, communication isn't just about being clear, it's about projecting confidence and control. Today, we're going to look at the key English skills that can really elevate a medical professional, helping you navigate those high pressure moments and make a real impact. So, does your English really sound as professional as you are? It's a serious question. For doctors, nurses, and really anyone in healthcare, communication isn't just a soft skill, right? It can literally be a matter of life and death. The precision of your language has a direct line to patient care, how your team works together, and even your own career path. To see this in action, we're going to follow Dr. Anya Sharma, a medical resident through one of those super challenging shifts where every single word counts. We'll track her as she goes from the morning handover through a tense conflict, all the way to a final clarifying debrief, and see how a few tweaks to her English can totally transform her professional impact. Okay, so Dr. Sharma's day kicks off with the morning handover. And this is critical, right? This is where all the patient info gets passed along. Even tiny grammar mistakes here can plant these little seeds of confusion that can grow into huge problems later in the day. First up, prepositions. And yeah, this is a super common one. Just remember this. You always work in a department, in a ward, or in the ICU. It might seem like a small detail, but getting this right is a subtle but really powerful way to show you're fluent and confident in that medical world. And it's the same idea here. When you're talking about directing your speech towards someone, especially when things are tense, the word is always at. Yelling at someone, shouting at someone. Using on just doesn't make sense. It's a tiny word, I know, but it makes a huge difference in getting your meaning across precisely. Okay, next up, modal verbs. Think must, can, or should. The rule here is so simple, and there are no exceptions, which is great. After one of these words, you just use the base form of the verb. You drop the to. So it's not she must to administer, it's just she must administer. In a hospital, that kind of directness is absolutely crucial for clarity. In a handover, getting the timing right is everything. So if you're talking about something that started in the past and is still going on right now, you need the present perfect continuous. Saying she has been monitoring tells the next person this is an ongoing thing with a clear duration. It's way more precise than just she is monitoring, and it paints a much clearer picture for the next shift. All right, so later on in the shift, Dr. Sharma gets into a pretty tense situation with a senior colleague. And in these moments, understanding the professional lingo for the chain of command, well, it's not just about being respectful, it's about handling conflict like a pro and ultimately keeping patients safe. This is so important. Knowing the exact vocabulary for the medical hierarchy is crucial. Is that person a consultant or a senior doctor? Are they the head nurse or the charge nurse? Using the right term shows you get the system and you respect everyone's role in it. And here's a word you absolutely need in your professional toolkit: subordinate. Yeah, in casual conversation, you might say someone below me, but in a professional setting, subordinate is the precise, formal term to describe someone in a lower position. Its opposite, by the way, is superior. Okay, let's get back to that conflict. When emotions are running high, the specific word you pick to describe how loud someone is can either pour fuel on the fire or help put it out. And believe me, the difference between shout, yell, and scream, it's massive. Let's start with shout. Shouting is really just about volume, usually for a practical reason. A surgeon might need to shout across a noisy operating room just to be heard. It's loud, but it isn't necessarily angry. Yelling, though, that's a whole different story. Yelling is all about anger. It's loud speech directed at a person with hostility. In any professional medical setting, yelling is just unprofessional. It's a big no-no. And then there's scream. This is something else entirely. It's that raw, involuntary sound of pain or fear or total shock. A patient in agony might scream. A professional colleague in a disagreement? Almost never. Screaming implies a complete and total loss of control. So here's the real takeaway. When you have to describe a tense moment later, being accurate and professional is everything. Instead of saying something emotionally charged like, he yelled at me, a more neutral and, frankly, more credible description is, he raised his voice. It states the facts without the drama, and that protects your professionalism. So, after all that, Dr. Sharma has a debrief with her supervisor. This is her chance to explain what went down, and it's a perfect moment for us to see how we can level up simple, informal language into something powerful and professional. Okay, let's break this one down. Talking to me becomes the more formal speaking to me. The vague phrase like, I'm under her, gets a huge upgrade to the grammatically precise as if I were her subordinate. See how each little change just adds another layer of precision? It's a huge improvement. Here's another great tip. Instead of a basic word like tired with very tacked on, go for a single, stronger word. Exhausted or drained. Those words communicate a much more severe level of fatigue, which, let's be honest, is the reality of a tough shift. It just has so much more impact. What about, I couldn't stand it anymore? It sounds a little emotional, a bit informal, right? The standard English phrase, I lost my patience, is clear. Everyone understands it, and it just describes reaching a breaking point in a much more professional-sounding way. And here's a final, super quick grammar fix that makes a world of difference. When you have a negative sentence, you always use any, not some. So without any help, without any warning, without any break. Fixing this one little word will instantly make your English sound so much more natural. Okay, let's put it all together. Imagine Dr. Sharma confidently explaining what happened now. She might say something like, the charge nurse started yelling at me as though I were her subordinate. I had been on my feet without any break, and I was completely exhausted. I eventually lost my patience. Do you hear that? The precision, the confidence, that's the goal right there. It's a clear, powerful summary of a really tough situation. So which of these will you focus on during your next shift? Whether it's those tiny prepositions or upgrading your professional language, mastering these patterns really is the key that unlocks that next level of confident communication. The whole point is to make sure your language is just as skilled and precise as your medical practice. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.